I know I'm 1 week late for this, but the final trailer, or the official trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, was absolutely amazing and finally showed people that thought the game was just going to be a $70 DLC, that this game had a lot more to boast than just being the foundation of Breath of the Wild with some extra things added on top. There was so much new things shown within this trailer in terms of both a gameplay perspective as well as a story perspective, and I'm going to be talking about that and how it's kind of obvious at this point that Tears of the Kingdom is so much more than just a DLC to Breath of the Wild, and it's going to be an entirely new game and an absolutely fantastic one at that. Before I start speaking about the trailer itself and the fact that Tears of the Kingdom doesn't look like a DLC at all in any regard at this point, I want to talk about some of the best video game sequels out there and what they did in order to be such a good sequel to the original game. In my opinion, a best video game sequel is something like Mass Effect 2, God of War Ragnarok, or Uncharted 2, or Batman Arkham City. These are all examples of the best video game sequels out there and how to make a perfect video game sequel in its own right. These games built upon the original and the foundation of that original and then expanded upon it, and in many ways that's what Tears of the Kingdom is doing. A sequel doesn't have to completely reinvent the wheel in order to be a good sequel or to be a good game in itself, but a sequel needs to be able to find the foundation of the original game and expand upon it in a way that is major, and that's something that Tears of the Kingdom definitely looks like it's doing. We can see this with all these new areas, the new dungeons, the underground section of the game, the new gameplay shown off as well, such as being able to take all these NPCs with the cart, for example, all these different things you can do with weapons, such as fusing a shield and a spear, the sky islands, the traversal. Everything really shows that this game understood what made the first game so fantastic in the first place and is able to build upon that foundation in order to create a game that is entirely unique within its own right, but also has the DNA of the original game in its heart. In my opinion, especially within this trailer or even the other two trailers that we got for Tears of the Kingdom, this game looks completely unique in its own right to Breath of the Wild, and it looks a lot more creative. It looks like the developers of Breath of the Wild understood what made that game so unique, and that was the fact that you could innovate and create your own gameplay style and be creative with all the different facets and tools that the game gave you. And it looks like the developers understood that the creativity part of Breath of the Wild was one of the biggest aspects that what made it so popular, and they took this in order to reinvent the wheel with it, in order to implement it into Tears of the Kingdom, creating an absolutely fantastic and unique gameplay system and so many new ways that players can mess around and innovate with the different gameplay mechanics in order to create their own unique gameplay experience. And I think that's what's going to make Tears of the Kingdom so damn successful. The gameplay here just really everything that they've been showing us, Nintendo has been showing us, has really emphasized the innovation of the player and even more tools for the player to mess around with. Providing us with the different tools such as fusing or the sky islands is giving the player more agency in order to direct their own adventure within the world of Tears of the Kingdom like they did in Breath of the Wild. And I think that's the very core facet in what made Breath of the Wild such a fantastic game, and that was how it redefined open worlds in order to give players back that agency instead of just playing through a linear experience. Instead, Breath of the Wild gave players a unique experience each and every playthrough with all the different tools, mechanics, and everything the players could mess around with in order to create unique experiences every time they played the game, as well as the incredible gameplay that's been shown off recently within this trailer and previous trailers to Tears of the Kingdom. There's been lots of little story bits shown, which makes me quite confident that Tears of the Kingdom actually took the emphasis that Breath of the Wild didn't have on its story and instead emphasizes back on that story component of the game, because other Zelda games such as Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and Ocarina of Time really boasted a story that was just as good as the gameplay of those games. But Breath of the Wild, although it had amazing gameplay, the story of Breath of the Wild wasn't that great, and you really had to find the story for yourself. And it looks like Tears of the Kingdom turns that around, having all these different characters, and seeing someone like Ganondorf finally for the first time within this new generation is absolutely fantastic. And the story here with Zelda, for example, with all these different things happening with her, and finally showing us a new generation of these new champions such as Sidon, is going to be super exciting for this story, and I'm really hyped to play the game. But I think what's the most hype part about this entire story component of Tears of the Kingdom is the fact that we got an actual Ganondorf, which was absolutely awesome to see, and the voice acting by Matthew Mercer looks absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited to see his performance in Tears of the Kingdom in only a few weeks at this point. And there's lots of hype being built up about the main villain of the game, and Ganondorf actually looks like he's going to be an absolute fantastic villain and not just like Calamity Ganon that we got in Breath of the Wild. So although I am of the opinion that Breath of the Wild story was kind of shallow and didn't really have anything to boast like previous Zelda games within its story component, it looks like it was building up to this grand finale battle against Ganondorf, and all these different clips we were shown of a new Hyrule, new champions, and a new world all fighting together against Ganon, trying to rebuild Hyrule to what it once was before Calamity Calamity Ganon is absolutely amazing, and the story here has really got me hyped up. And I really think that if you were worried about the game, which I was myself previously, there's nothing to be worried about, especially with this trailer showing us that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be something absolutely amazing and is much more than just a $70 DLC, as some people have been tagging the game as. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.